Let's move on, and I'm delighted to say that we can make contact with Graham Hunter in sunnier climes than we are. Graham, good morning to you.
Bonjour, mes amis. Welcome aboard.
You're literally floating.
Yeah, listen, mentally you've known that for years. You're right. I brought you on board the Crusader on the Canal du Midi between Bordeaux and Toulouse, and you're very welcome.
Hey, well, look, we know you've got to get going pretty soon, so this is going to be a regular slot on OTB AM. We're delighted to have you with us. So a couple of things that we wanted to talk to you about. It's a bit of an aberration, but apparently Fulham outspent Barcelona in the transfer window this year. It's not really any kind of comment beyond Fulham spent a lot of money and maybe Barcelona didn't get all of their transfer targets.
No, you can definitely put flesh on the bones there, Ger. For example, you and I, we've all, on your show, we've spoken often enough about once you lose a central nervous system, which has been the Cruyff ideal about who to buy, how to buy, what concepts to apply to the planning, the thinking, the selling. Now, that Cruyff concept went right down through Chicky Begiristain and Rijkaard and Pep Guardiola and Zubizarreta to an extent. Once you lose that, and they lost that some years ago, the signings become more haphazard. There's been a jumble sale idea about Barcelona's signings. You're rummaging around, you see something shiny, you grab it. Where's your plan? And therefore, this summer, what they've done pretty well is cleared out. They've got a lot of footballers out who weren't fitting, who aren't giving the value that their original outlay had asked for. And what they've done that I think is at least interesting is that they've gone back to the kind of concepts which should mean that this summer's money has been spent better. And, going to your Fulham point, they've done it at a net profit. Now, I see people all the time say, never mind net. It's all about quality. It's all about efficacy. That's very good. That's good. But if you're a club like Barcelona, which is trying to spend 600 and something million on renewing the stadium, and you're running out of money, that's pretty damn embarrassing. So without listing every signing, but having taken your lead, Artur, for example, the young Brazilian, has come in lacking experience at the top level, but looking as if he's played all his life in the Barca scheme. That's clever. That's good buying. Vidal, who's come from Bayern Munich, is going to be fun. A warrior, an occasional misbehavior, somebody who's avowed his distaste for Real Madrid while a Bayern Munich player and since signing for Barcelona. He doesn't look right. The sort of dyed-in-the-wool culés who want to see pure football are like, oh, no, never, not another Paulinho. Well, Paulinho, who helped them win the double. And the coach, Valverde, came out instantly say, yeah, that's the kind of footballer I want in my squad, because he's talking about plugging certain gaps that are absent. And he's talking about never having teams steamroller them without resistance like Paris Saint-Germain did, like Juventus did, like Roma did. So you're not looking for an exposition of the entire summer's business by Football Club Barcelona, but they've done some business that looks more shrewd than recently. They've got rid of guys who weren't working. And two small points I like. Munir El Haddadi, who is a talent, who came through their academy and was loaned out. He had a fabulous season at Alaves last season. He's back, and that's a good decision. Secondly, beyond what you spend, they've developed Dembele. Dembele gradually is showing intelligence and football articulacy and little clues. Suarez and Messi are beginning to look for him. He's beginning to understand their movement, and he's beginning to track back. It's not a spend this summer, but it does increasingly look like it might be business well done.
Okay, a quick word about Real Madrid. It's an entire new era at Real Madrid. Obviously, no Zidane, no Ronaldo. How have things begun in the new era, and who is stepping into the leadership vacuum on and off the field?
Ger, I find it really exciting. Number one, what I can tell you from firsthand, having been in Krasnodar when Lopetegui was sacked and knowing that the players weren't particularly happy, there is a real bond that you can see from the daily work, not from what happened in the past between, say, Nacho and Lopetegui, or Isco and Lopetegui, or even Asensio and Lopetegui. Right across the squad, there are players who know him or have worked with him, and either at club or international level, because remember, Casemiro found his feet at Lopetegui's Porto. They're enjoying the daily training, and you're beginning to see it. The suppositions where all of us have seen a superstar leave, whether it be a club or a franchise, because off the ball you talk about so many different brands of sport. when a superstar goes, sometimes it can be a collapse. Sometimes players don't believe. And at other times, guys who've been in the shadows, guys who've been best supporting actor, step forward looking for the Oscar. Now that's happening without question to Isco, to Asensio, to Benzema and to Bale. And therefore, when you get them playing at the back with the usual kind of enthusiasm, if not necessarily always finesse, and when you get the midfielders, particularly I want to go to Kroos because we've seen very little of Modric, but Kroos has come back very much like Marc-Andre ter Stegen at Barcelona, buzzing with the anger and disappointment of an embarrassing summer. Kroos over the last few weeks, both I'm told in training, but then in match situations, has been Rolls Royce at his very, very best. And the headline makers, the ones that you guys have been talking about already, clearly are Benzema, no longer in Tour de France ideals, a domestique to team leader Ronaldo. He's gone back to what made him 33 million euro purchase, what is it now, 8 seasons ago, when coming from Lyon as a centre forward. And he's back to playing as a 9. He's got 5 goals in 4 games. But rather than the stats, guys, what you look at is his movement, his confidence, the number of times he shoots on goal, and the number of times that he's putting the ball on goal or near the goal compared to sometimes when he was working for Ronaldo. And he's such a bright footballer. He may not be the brightest man, but as a footballer, he's got university challenge stamped all over him. And I watched somebody enjoying his work again, guys. I think that's a crucial aspect. He's got a thorn in his side because he was excluded from France as they went and won the World Cup. And maybe the bigger headline, maybe the guy you've talked about most, Bale is now free to roam down the right, down the left. He's terrorising fullbacks. When he's playing down the right, he can cut in and shoot on his left foot as he did in the Ronaldo era. But when he's playing on the left, the crossing is fantastic. He's producing assists. He's playing down the middle, shooting from distance. He's terrifying if you're a defender who's not 6'4" and big and strong. And therefore, Bale is not just assuming control or filling the vacuum, because quite soon we have to stop talking about Ronaldo's not there.
Yeah.
They had to do so weeks ago, otherwise it's unhealthy. But we have to too analyse the team, the players in their own right. And what I'm saying to you is that Bale's enjoying himself again, and for that reason he's a much more dangerous footballer.
One last question which I'm going to ask about the real Ronaldo in a minute, but did you know that it's been reported in the last 24 hours, Owen, that 1 million followers disappeared from Real Madrid's social accounts in 24 hours after Ronaldo's departure? Somebody was tracking this before and after, and 1 million of them just went, no, we're not. We were Ronaldo fans, not Real Madrid fans.
That's a sad indictment of football, isn't it? To actually go to the effort of unliking the page. Do you not want to see how your ex is getting on? No, do you not want to see how your former friend in Real Madrid is keeping? No, do those 1 million people not have any curiosity about the future of Real Madrid?
A bit creepy, Owen. Speaking of Ronaldo, the real Ronaldo has apparently bought a share of Real Valladolid.
No, he has. You're right. I was there on their opening day of the season and traipsing around an astonishing stadium. For those who don't know about Valladolid and what Brazilian Ronaldo is buying into, they are one of the grand names of Spanish football. If you go there in the winter, you really are, you need to be dressed like Scott of the Antarctic. It's frighteningly cold. That stadium gets full and hostile. It's a big old place. There were days when Valladolid had a perfectly adequate and interesting football proposition, and some of the greats have been born there and come through that city. So there's pride. It's not a franchise, but it's a name that used to make big clubs tremble. Right now, well, you saw the hilarious spectacle of their newly laid pitch, and I asked around the town about why, with 70 days since your promotion from the Segunda, has nothing been done? And they just went old style Spain. They went, well, it's hard to get contractors to do the things, and it's at least it's been done before the first game. And the attitude was very 1960s Spain. We did our best, but it hasn't happened. And the carpet strips were lifting as Barcelona were there. But also I went around and, the toilets were dilapidated. There was no toilet paper anywhere. The coffee machines were broken. Lovely club. Nice people. Not looking equipped for life in the Primera Division at all. And therefore, the real Ronaldo, as you call him, he came in with innate talent to the game and then lived his life exactly the way that he pleased. And therefore, the jokes around Valladolid are that if they get through in the cup, if they win a game, there'll be week-long parties. If you remember when Ronaldo had his birthday party at Real Madrid, there used to be double-decker buses full of young Brazilian and Spanish maidens moving into his house. So therefore, I suppose Valladolid, there's an extra incentive to win games if Ronaldo is part of your board, because he knows how to celebrate a win. What he's bringing football-wise, what he's going to take to them in terms of decision-making. I go back to both your point about profiles and the other Ronaldo leaving the club. There was a stage at which Jose Angel Sanchez, the vice president of Real Madrid, said, listen, we're not quite buying fans, but we know that fans come and follow your brand because of, I heard you talking about Colin Kaepernick's brand, and Real Madrid deliberately brought into the idea that you buy followers by buying big club names, and therefore Cristiano Ronaldo taking some people away from their social media accounts and their brand shimmer won't be a great surprise to them, and it's what Valladolid are doing, in my opinion. When you look at Ronaldo and how he likes to live his life, what he thinks like, how he speaks like right now, this is a way for him to be back feeling football, smelling the grass occasionally as he watches training. What football experience and intelligence he's bringing to the club, I'm not so sure. But like I say, if they knock out a big team from the cup or win a couple of games in the league, the party should be fun. Yeah, and he's bringing attention too. Last point, Cristiano Ronaldo, Mohamed Salah and Luka Modric are the shortlist for World Player of the Year. I think it's the first time since 2006 there's no Leo Messi. Messi can't really complain about not being on the list, but maybe Griezmann or Mbappe might have a case. Chair. It's just as well I'm not in the studio with a custard pie in my hand. Because you'd be all Max Sennett right now. Don't be ridiculous. If people want to vote for players other than Leo Messi, great, go on. If there is an award called the best and Leo Messi's not even on the podium, it's a joke. If you want to argue that other players had bigger headline achievements last season, then I'm not actually going to get into a punch-up with you or anybody else. Leo Messi last season, particularly across getting Argentina to the World Cup and then Barcelona's League and Cup double. And I'm aware that the shimmer for domestic achievements in certain countries has diminished. The shimmer wouldn't diminish for a Liverpool player who won the Premier League after so many years of aching to win it, I know. But the fact that Barcelona regularly win the league doesn't take away from anybody who watched Leo Messi closely and how he played last season. If there's a top three in an award called the best, and he's not in that three, then the award is broken. He did score the most goals, and we've got the Squawka stats up there. 34 goals, the joint most assists, and the most chances created in La Liga last year. I guess it's a World Cup year. The team that wins the World Cup, you generally see, and it hasn't happened even. There's no French. Yeah, we know the formula. We know how people think and act and decide these days, and I can't change that. I'm only saying, I pay attention. I work hard. I go around Europe, not just Spain. If you appreciate, your stats are good to back up that you generously gave me something to back up my argument. But if you look at the quality of his play, the intelligence of his play, the decision-making, the way in which he often carries the team on his shoulders, we're talking about somebody who, if you want to say the best over the last 3 months of the season, if you want to say the best, you know, in the Barca-Roma game, fine. If you want to talk about the best over a 10, 12-month period, he has to be on that podium, and then people can decide for themselves how they do it. For my money, in my understanding of footballer, he remains the best footballer on the planet, not just in this award, because you have to have an all-embracing idea about what the best means. If the competition is set up to go, well done, you won something, well done, you had a blitzkrieg last couple of months of the season, I don't really mind, but it isn't my idea of the best. Fair enough. Graham, we'll let you get back to your holidays. Thanks a million. Merci. Bonjour.